3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
Welcome to Mission CTRL, Peralta Design's podcast on all things branding and digital marketing. Since 2009, Peralta Design has launched dozens of brands with award-winning identities and websites. Join our hosts Ramon and Jorge as they use decades of combined experience to tackle topics with past clients, industry partners, and the rest of the PD crew. At Peralta Design, we launch brands. But for now, let's launch right into this episode of Mission CTRL.
All right, here we go. We're recording here live from Mission CTRL, our new podcast here at Peralta Design, where we launch brands. And we want to talk about the Super Bowl and specifically Super Bowl commercials. As a creative agency involved in marketing and branding, it's kind of like people look to us to have an opinion on what were the best commercials, what were some of our favorite commercials. And as we know, these brands are spending over $5 million for a 30-second spot. It's
crazy.
It's kind of nuts.
It's crazy.
Yeah, so we got Danny here, and we've got Jorge, and we're just going to chat it up. I thought we'd start with my top 10 list that I post to Facebook in real time as people look to us again to get our take on what we liked. Initially, my first choice top spot was for the Rocket Mortgage spot with Jason Momoa. I'm going to run through these, and then we're going to rip these apart because some of these may have changed. So number 2, the Porsche Taycan commercial. Take It to the House, which I thought was fun and interactive. The Hyundai Smart Pack, as you know, I grew up in Providence, so that one really resonated with me. The Little Caesars Dwight Schrute bit was pretty funny as number 5. I got Lil Nas X and Sam Shepard for Doritos for number 6.
That was great.
The Walmart ad, simply because they had Mars Attacks in there, amongst a bunch of other references.
I have to know how much that cost them in licensing. There was everything under the sun.
Either they didn't pay anybody or they spent a fortune. Tide Pods, that was just hilarious because it seemed like the dude from It's Always Sunny,
Charlie Day.
Charlie Day, like just having him throughout the game, and then the Wonder Woman tie-in was hilarious. The Procter & Gamble spot, because Honda did something like that where you could see all their products just to show you like we're everywhere in your life. And, the last spot, I hadn't seen Groundhog Day for Jeep with Bill Murray. So I had on there the Hard Rock commercial, which had some great visuals, but wasn't, I didn't think it had the best story. Tied with Baby Nut, and I only threw Baby Nut in there because it was done by Gary Vee. I honestly wasn't a big fan of it, but I think I'm going to swap them out.
He directed that commercial?
That was done by his agency.
Oh my God!
I had no idea.
They hired VaynerMedia, so it was like his idea. I'm sure.
I was gonna say it's very convenient. Your number 10 slot there with Hard Rock and Baby Nut, because those are my least favorite commercials of the whole thing.
Yeah, but they just got bumped for Groundhog. I really think the Jeep one was good. So why don't we hear what do you guys think, and we'll go back and pick apart this list a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
I honestly, I gotta say, from the video point of view, that Hard Rock Cafe one was not great. Yeah. It cut. I think there might have been over 60 cuts in like a 30 second.
It had a terrible flow. It had a lot of star power. So the Hard Rock has this new hotel that's shaped like a guitar. So the pictures of that were dope because you just look at a still of that hotel, it's incredible.
Yeah.
And then they had all the star power in there like J-Lo and DJ Khaled and A-Rod. But as far as the storyline, the way they, I was not a fan, and I agree with you. It just had a terrible flow to it because you're like, what the heck's going on?
I was saying before, the worst kind of editing is when you're aware of it and you're not like into video or anything like that. If even my family was like, wow, this is a really jumpy video, isn't it? Like I can't pay attention because of all the cuts. And that's a massive flop then.
Right.
If just the regular layman is sitting there like, this is edited poorly, then you've
right. It looked almost like a rapid fire slideshow of photos.
Absolutely.
Right. And I think they wanted to focus so much on that new guitar shape that's what they honed in on. But I felt like it was just lacking in terms of, like I said, I wasn't engaged in the story, and the hidden identity and the Scooby-Doo
It was
kind
the
of
whole
moment.
cliche, the Scooby-Doo mask thing that we've seen on memes and everything. It's just part of pop culture now. But I agree, like even that payoff, like there has been so much damage done by that point that didn't make up for it.
Right, exactly.
I mean, when they started it off, it was I think it was Tom Cruise at the top, right? Like Mission Impossible style.
It seemed very much like
they should
Ghost
have.
Protocol.
I think they should have stuck with that, like them scaling the building. It would have.
If they would have gone full in secret agent type of commercial for that, I think it would have been a bigger hit. You know what I mean?
It became too much like inside, like celebrity goofiness. Like he stole J-Lo's cup, and I don't know. It
didn't land with
it. Just nobody cares. Like who cares? And then there's one scene where she's like paddle boarding across a pool to like highlight her butt muscles, and it was just no. So anyway, that just got bumped. And then if we're working from the bottom up, Baby Nut, the whole thing, I had seen some sneak peeks that they were gonna kill off Mr. Peanut.
Right.
That was the whole thing. And people on LinkedIn were already talking about it being a bad branding move because it's kind of nuts to take your mascot, pun intended, to take your mascot and kill him in like an explosion. But when I found out who was behind it, Gary V, you can just imagine him like on the spot coming up with the entire storyline.
Right.
Oh, we're just gonna kill him, dropping F-bombs and so forth. And then the reveal during the commercial was that then they have like this new Baby Nut.
Yeah, it's funny that you mention it because it's retreading the same ground that pop culture has been treading the last 5 years with initially Groot, as Jorge mentioned earlier, where he dies and comes back as a baby.
Definitely the whole rebirth
It's a
bit with
cliche.
Baby
It's
Groot.
like it's not really that creative.
And then Baby Yoda like really flanderized it. It's like, look how cute Baby Yoda is.
Yeah.
And now it just feels like they're chasing that.
Yeah. To me, it's like Baby Yoda greater than Baby Nut. That's just
Well, I think that goes without saying.
They're hopping on that train a little bit late. I thought it was fascinating though that between that commercial and I want to say it was a Cheetos commercial, I saw guys getting work who I hadn't seen on screen in some time. MC Hammer and Wesley Snipes. Yeah. I was like, wow, these guys are getting out there. They're really pulling out.
The best part of the MC Hammer commercial was when the picnic blanket becomes his pants.
Yeah, that was fantastic. It like tightens up. Oh my god, that was great.
That was a good awareness commercial. I had no idea that they were coming out with a new popcorn line. So kudos to them.
Wasn't that like Cheeto fries, or is that something totally different?
No, that's something different. That's like the Cheeto hot
I'm
fries.
confused.
I think this is actually a rebrand of Cheeto puff corn that has existed for a while.
Oh, that I wasn't seeing.
And that makes me sad because that means the price is going up from $2 probably to their like $3.69 price tag.
So let's talk about Groundhog Day because I think that makes the list.
I want to say I think it was a win for car companies across the board.
Right.
Jeep with that for it being Groundhog Day, right? I think that Bill Murray is just one of those celebrities who hits home for a lot of people. Some people might call him a national treasure. So much that
he's an icon.
There was a moment where I had to question whether I was going to stay with my then girlfriend, now wife, because I went to go put on Groundhog Day one night, and she goes, "I don't even like Bill Murray."
Oh no!
And I'm like,
that was one of those moments.
No.
Red flag.
I literally paused and I did a double take. It's like, what did you say? So I was like, you know what? We'll try it again another night. It's fine. So to this day, we still haven't watched it, but she claims that she never said that, and I have a vivid memory.
Denial.
I know. So
backtracking.
But like I said, national treasure. They nailed it. The same. I don't know if they literally went to the same exact set and they rebuilt it or what.
The same outfit, the same trench coat.
Yeah.
They
they pulled all the same actors out.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I mean, for how many years it's been? I mean, good job. Everyone's still with
and talk about the antithesis of the Hard Rock Cafe one, right? They just chose one movie.
Right.
They stuck with it. They got all the right actors for it, and it totally. I wanted a Jeep by the end of that.
Right,
It looked
and
like
they
fun.
continued this. They continued the movie. It could have been like an
That's the
extended
sequel, right.
director's cut,
exactly,
because it went right along
And
with the original
I don't know
story.
how much was CG, how much was practical, like effect, like animatronics, or how much was real groundhog. But they nailed that.
They
too.
nailed
Good
it.
job.
Yeah.
They sold the whole
I
thing.
found it hilarious because of Caddyshack. I love that movie, and in Caddyshack, it's totally a puppet that's like dancing around. It's a groundhog, but the gopher. I'm saying it totally like drives him nuts, and so it's a young Bill Murray, with the gopher, and now we have him with the groundhog. To me, it was just perfect. I mean, it was well done. Great commercial.
Like I said, it sells the brand. You get that feeling of adventure with the Jeep.
And it totally
all-wheel drive.
It's American. It's an American holiday. It's an American.
And it filled
vehicle.
that slot because there was a truck in the movie, and they recreated scenes. They just used their new truck. Like it was a no-brainer, but it was brilliant.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that one.
Also, on the topic of cars, I thought that the Hummer commercial stood out to me. Because we're in this
the electric Hummer.
Exactly, the electric Hummer.
Because everybody thought Hummer was dead.
Right,
it was like
exactly. Because how can you possibly sustain that vehicle? You know what I mean?
Gas guzzler.
Precisely. And now that we're in this electric vehicle renaissance, now that Tesla's disrupted the market, every car company is looking to start this whole EV, market.
There's no limit to how big your car can be again.
Right, exactly.
The Expedition.
When they're talking about the amount of horsepower that it's gonna get, you know what I mean, and the range, this, that, the other thing. Think about how huge your battery can be in something like a Hummer.
And I really think that was probably really cheap to make because all they had to do is like, all right, in this scene show horses, in this scene no audio. Just cut the audio.
Think about
they didn't even really have to show the car.
They didn't show the car.
It was kind of like a grill. That could have been all CGI.
I bet it was. I'm sure it was.
Yeah. They're like, should we build this again? Let's see what the response is.
Brilliant. Right. So they probably saved a lot of money on production, but think about how much of an impact it made because the Super Bowl just makes a lot of noise in general between the roar of the crowd, the game, the commercials, the music. You have all this noise, so having that moment of silence for me, it at least stuck out. And that
it catches your attention.
Pay attention.
Perfect segue into the Taycan, which is Porsche's entry into the luxury sports car electric market, and dope commercial. It's on my bucket list to go to Stuttgart and go to the Porsche factory. Where the commercial is set, and great concept where like. All the security guards basically they go for a joyride. Yeah,
I thought it was a play on words beautifully too, because it was a take on and it was taken. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
well, that is true. That there are different ways to pronounce it. But excellent job with just the excitement of showing their whole fleet.
Right.
Going back in history, showing their racing car heritage.
Yeah.
But also kind of changing this. Mindset of the enthusiast or the purist, right? Who really feels that gas is like the true, much like manual is like the true racing standard, pun intended. And gas being like the sound of the engine being synonymous with car enthusiasts and racing. Here the entire history of Porsche, their whole fleet going way back to their race cars is out here chasing their new entry, this new technology, which I thought just visually was pretty dope.
It's they kind of passed the torch visually.
Exactly.
That, hey, you can start from these tractors that we made going all
that
the way.
Was hilarious. The guy that gets stuck with the tractor, it's like musical chairs. He's like, oh man. But they did make tractors. It's like it was part of their heritage.
I think it's part of that whole thing, and I think that they're going to see a good transition between the specs that they're already showing. Enthusiasts are excited. Purists are excited. It's just they're going to transition well into this EV revolution.
Right, I think so too, and I agree. The way at the end where they hand the keys off, it's almost like they're handing the keys off to the consumer. Like this is still a Porsche. It's drifting, it's cruising, and I think they even pipe a little sound because one of the things that
it being silent,
they need a little, even though it doesn't have an exhaust. Car purists still want to hear something. So they're piping in a little whir, like there's some little sound effect that's going to make you feel like you're driving a Porsche. And some people are even saying that like you wouldn't hear that outside the vehicle, but that in the car itself, they're piping in a little bit of sound. So you can hear the gears shifting.
Yeah, I mean,
they're
doing it for, it's just part of the essence of driving to me. And I think that you're not going to get away from that. Even you look at professional motorsports, Formula E, they do the same thing where those things sound like little spaceships as soon as they spin up. Just because you need to have that
And I
Part
think
of the
it brings up also
satisfaction.
the fact that you don't really see Bugatti commercials or Maserati commercials,
Right.
Porsche commercials,
Right.
but because they're breaking into this market that's currently dominated by Tesla, this electric luxury sports car market, they needed to do a commercial, because
Absolutely.
this stuff's been under wraps, and for them it's totally new ground. But I think we're going to see more electric cars coming out, more electric SUVs coming out. Ford had a great commercial for their Mustang, which didn't make my list, but it's been so controversial online because people that are Mustang enthusiasts are like, why would you call this SUV a Mustang?
Right.
But they're leveraging a brand that people know and love, and they're saying, well, this is still a Mustang. It's still Ford. It's still aggressive. It's still fun to drive, but it's their electric. They're entering into this market. I think we're going to see a lot more of these crossover SUVs that are sporty, but they're also electric.
And I wonder, going back to the Porsche, the market that they're trying to enter into is dominated by Tesla, as you said.
Right.
I wonder if they're leveraging their history
Absolutely.
to say, like, hey, listen, these guys are new. We've been around the block, and now we're bringing ours out.
Absolutely.
Right,
So
you're
I
bringing
think that's why they
experience
did
to the
it.
That's
table.
totally what you got to see in that
Yeah.
commercial.
Absolutely.
That's great. Now, the most hilarious. Let's talk about Hyundai since we're on the car thing.
All right.
That to me was hilarious. Like the accent to hear that.
It was
what
great.
did you guys
I don't know
think?
if any of them are natives of that
I
region.
think so. I think they are.
But the casting was great because you had Jim Halpert / Jack Ryan and Captain America in the same commercial, and then you had, and her name escapes me at the moment, but I know she's from SNL.
Oh, she's hilarious.
And everybody just sold it so perfectly, and then they brought Big Papi in there at the end to pull it all together. We were cracking up.
Yeah.
The whole room absolutely loved that commercial.
Yeah.
Something was just charming about it.
Yeah.
And then the whole time they're just reiterating the whole brand over and over. And kudos to Hyundai because not that long ago it was like, oh, you think you're gonna roll up in a Hyundai? And now it's
Yeah.
like, oh, he rolled up in a Hyundai. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
they have been able to change their brand perspective, and I think pulling in new features and technologies, I think it's going to be big for them.
Yeah, and I think that their luxury mark, the Genesis, they had a pretty dope commercial because that thing looked sweet. They had the John Legend commercial where
Chrissy Teigen.
he pulls up in it and you're like, what is that? It looked like a Jaguar or something, but that was a Genesis. So they're getting into that luxury SUV market, and kudos to them. So yeah, there was some great car commercials. The Take It to the House. So that was the
awesome.
NFL, right?
Yeah,
No,
right.
that was
Yeah.
fun.
And it was neat because if you were watching during the season, they had been Deion Sanders got on NFL Network and got on breaks in games and said, hey, if your kid loves football and you want to see them on the field, submit. So all those kids where their parents submitted tape so that they could get featured on there.
Right.
And I thought it was great how you got to mix in, those kids got time not only, I love the transition between it being the commercial to
Yeah.
being on the field.
Running right out. Yeah.
That
And
was
it
great.
was really smooth.
It was
really
smooth.
It was smooth and the energy was fantastic.
My eyes went right away to see, like, did this kid get older since that commercial? Like, how long ago was it shot?
Right.
He looked a little bit older, but like it
Just
was
a touch.
It was just months, maybe 6 months or whatever the heck the production schedule was. But that was like my first reaction when it went from film to reality.
Right.
I was like looking for details, like, is his hair the same? Is he taller?
I was just really entertained.
Is
I
it the same
clapped.
kid? Yeah, it was just cool to combine. It reminded me of like those. I'm dating myself, but we used to have these commercials with like Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, where it was like part of it was animation and part of it was like real.
Oh yeah.
Real film, and it was mixed together. I just love that combination, the way they did that.
It was awesome. And I love the energy. Obviously, to me, anyway, that kid was very much an Odell Beckham fan, just from the way that the hair was. I loved getting to see all these different NFL legends from throughout history. It was really great. It was good. And I think this is the kind of thing that they need in that, the sport needs to promote its ability to, to say, hey, come, we're trying to make it safer. We're trying to make it so that way, your kids can get involved. To that point, another NFL commercial with the Microsoft partnership with the whole Katie Sowers thing, which was phenomenal to me. I mean, the first woman in the Super Bowl, like that was great, and something that I hadn't even considered was a thing. And so I'm glad that they not only they made it a big enough deal to put that on there. So I think that the NFL is really trying to instill some goodwill in there.
Right.
I do want to say something about the hair because my nephew, I think he's got like natural curly hair, and that kid in the commercial, from what I'm hearing, like there are kids that are going to like hair salons to get like perms and stuff to get that look, like that Odell. I think he kind of sparked it.
Right.
But now like all these kids that have straight hair are trying to get like that look, like get a perm, shave the sides, dye the top. It's like a whole thing.
Wow.
Yeah. It's hilarious. But the funniest commercial to me where I like just was dying laughing was because it was shocking.
Yeah.
Was the Jason Momoa, the Rocket Mortgage.
They nailed it.
Yeah,
well.
That was so good.
And it's another one that, how much of it was practical and how much of it, like, I don't know if that was a bald cap that they used and then a wig on top of it, or if they CG, I'm not sure where the line was for some of it. Some of it definitely felt like Chris Evans as Captain America, where you turn the big guy into the scrawny guy.
Yeah.
But man,
it's so well done. And it reminded me of I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, the Robert Townsend movie. There's a scene in it where this woman, she's on a date with this guy and he brings her back to his room and then she just starts taking things off, like her butt's fake, her leg is fake, her wig, and it was just like an exaggeration, and it reminded me of this because like what we see sometimes is not real.
Right.
I mean, I think it was fantastic, and I always pay attention to see if I can find the seams, for the effects.
Yeah.
But they just timed it so well. Like
perfect.
they managed to get that. They managed to put that guy's head on that skinny person's body. Pretty convincingly.
It was great.
And you got to blend the neck.
The moment
God,
he took
that
the
was
boots off,
terrible.
because it took everyone totally by surprise. I'm like, oh wow, he's a lot shorter than I thought he was.
Yeah.
But because the boots were just like, okay, I thought that was just one thing. Then everything else started.
And then
to come
he's like,
apart.
I could just be myself, and he pulls out the instrument. It's
Yeah,
not,
he starts
it's not
playing.
it's not like a cool guitar. It's
No,
like
he's
harpsichord or
something like that, a dulcimer.
I guess my biggest observation is that as much as so far a lot of the commercials have been the brand and the commercial itself are right in alignment and they're promoting each other. I can't necessarily tell you that made Rocket Mortgage stick in my head very much.
I agree.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great commercial. I laughed, but in terms of the branding,
So
presence,
it brings up a good point. So Rocket Mortgage is something that is like the TurboTax of CPAs. It's the bane of their existence because you've got these local mortgage guys that give you this personal attention, and then you have a company like Rocket Mortgage or TurboTax, which their whole thing is they want to take something that's super complicated and make it seem like anybody can do it. Right. Or like you're buying a house, just go to Rocket Mortgage and press a button and you're approved, and it doesn't work like that. And so instead of them telling you the reality of how this works, they spend $6 million, they get celebrities, and they put these commercials on to just raise brand awareness. They're not telling you how it works. They're just hoping that you connect this funny moment with their brand and that you remember them.
It's actually remarkable because I was gonna say the only thing I know about Rocket Mortgage, because I'm not in the market for anything like that, is that I know Rocket Mortgage has good commercials, and that's it. I don't know anything else about Rocket Mortgage.
Right. So let's go back to the Super Bowl. So the Super Bowl commercials, the Lil Nas X, I thought that was hilarious to take, the fact that it was, a country mashup and put Sam Shepard in there, whose mustache is like, mustache
iconic.
is like, it's just synonymous with being a cowboy.
Right. It was a lot of fun.
I loved it. It caught me off guard, and I was like, wait, is that? And everyone's like, oh yeah, it is. I hope so much. Lil Nas X, if you're listening, I hope you're taking all that money and you're investing. You have a financial advisor because, man, you're stacking it right now. You're killing it. And it's not like you're a one-hit wonder. You have other good songs, too. And, congratulations to you. And congratulations to Doritos for saying, you know what? All things considered, we're gonna take this and we're gonna make something out of it, and they did.
A dancing mustache, because that mustache just has. People always joke that mustaches have a life of their own, And this thing literally was like doing the worm on the guy, or the caterpillar, I should probably say. on Sam Shepard's face. So I thought that was hilarious. What are some other ones that you guys like that the Little Caesars, I thought.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was great, and it very much spoke to like Steve Jobs and all these branding titans that you think of, these strong
like these
brands.
sliced bread, like headquarters.
Right, better than sliced.
That was
corporation.
good. That was
The best
really
things
good.
is yeah, I know. And that was great. And I don't even Little Caesars is kind of like a whatever, but the good job for staying relevant, for them.
Yeah, I think they fell off. And this was a great way to come. If you're gonna come back, who better than Dwight Schrute?
They nailed it. They nailed it.
For being the
I think
corporate.
part of that just comes with our regional bias. This New Haven pizza is like the pizza
Yeah, we're
capital of the
spoiled.
world.
We're totally spoiled.
You know what I mean? Like we have arguably some of the best pizza in the world.
Let's just put it out there.
No, it is the
Chicago
best.
pizza is not pizza.
Ooh, hot take.
Wow.
Let's just
That
put
was
this out
spicy.
there.
But I was going to say, but to close out the whole podcast, I wanted to ask everyone's opinion on Google's campaign.
That's a good one in that somebody said the more evil the corporation, the more they have to hit you in the feels to counteract it. Now, I don't believe that Google's evil, although I thought it was interesting that they used to have a company mandate in their charter that said, don't be evil, and they removed that. So that was interesting. But neither here nor there, I think it's interesting that Google, having become a verb, having become a part of our lives, most people in the world have an experience with the brand. I think them turning it from being just a search engine or a business product or whatever it is that the YouTube, they had such a large, wide net that they cast. I think it was even more interesting that they decided to go for the emotional one every year. And it's just interesting it being the Super Bowl. It's generally a party vibe. Everyone's kind of happy. It's a feel-good moment. And then you get this silence in the room.
Right.
And it gets emotional. Everyone kind of is like sad. And then they switch to like a bright Target commercial. So it's,
I think it makes sense because it's part of our life now. If you're saying, hey, Google, play this, or hey, Google, do that. It's like we're talking to it. It reminds me of Joaquin Phoenix and Her, where he falls in love with his operating system.
Right, yeah.
Where it makes total sense that a brand like that we're interacting with, that it's become our lives operating system, if you will, would have an emotional commercial.
I think it's interesting because the market right now is so saturated with emotional commercials where they bring in the strings and then they show you images of America and everything else. And that's great, but I saw like 4 back to back to back, and they lose their effect over time. And Google didn't advertise a product; they advertised a feature of their product and it was a remarkably specific thing, right? It's just like the remind me function, and in this case, yes, it'd be heartstring pulling. But I think it did a long way of just humanizing the brand a little bit more. They always go for that as hard as they can.
Yeah, I think that's part of what their mission is, to keep the people at the heart of their brand. So well done on them as far as that's concerned. Again, it's just an interesting decision to go that way.
All right. Yeah.
All right, guys. I think that's a wrap. I think we went through all the best ones, and we look forward to hearing some feedback and some of the feedback we might get from some of our listeners.
Yeah, tell us what you think.
Yeah, definitely. Always please make sure to leave a review on your favorite podcast network, whether that's on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. That really makes a difference, really helps out the show. And looking to see you guys next week.
Thank you for listening. So this is Peralta Design's own podcast, Mission Control, and we launch brands.
Thank you for taking this journey with us. To learn more about Peralta Design and our work, go to www.peraltadesign.com and subscribe to keep up with the crew.